A while back, I was replaying Dark Souls again, something I do somewhat routinely. But I got to the end of it. Well, not the end. I only typically play as far as Quelaag or maybe in Orlando on subsequent playthroughs. I really only enjoy the first half of the game, if I'm being completely honest. So while I have played the whole game from front to back before, it's not what I usually do when I'm replaying it. Anywho, I got done with that replay and I wrote down some notes because I wanted to make a video on it, and then I just kind of moved on to other things, and I sort of haven't been thinking about Dark Souls that much lately. But the problem is, those notes are written on a whiteboard. If you see me looking off screen constantly, that's what I'm looking at. Um, yeah, they're written on a whiteboard, and I need that whiteboard now for other projects. And I don't feel like writing all these notes down somewhere else so that I can still remember them the next time I actually have the urge to make this video. So I'm just gonna make it now, and it's gonna be tough to really like tie all this together because it's not at the forefront of my mind the way it was when I wrote all these notes down. So I hope you'll bear with me on that. Anywho, so I'm hardly the first person to feel like Dark Souls is like a really good analogy for depression and mental health in general. I'm gonna try to make this as approachable as possible for like people who haven't like played Dark Souls before. Um, I can't imagine a ton of people who haven't played Dark Souls are gonna watch this, but just in case you're interested in it and you're watching this video for some reason, I'll try and explain it. Basically, in Dark Souls, the whole world has been like riddled with what is called the undead curse. And the undead curse means basically if you are undead, you will come back to life again and again and again, basically ad nauseum. Like people will live hundreds and thousands of years, maybe even millions. I'm not sure exactly, but basically you will live certainly much, much, much longer than you would ever want to live, right? And like within this world, the vast majority of people, to my understanding, are undead. Very few people get to experience like peace, right? Now, what's interesting is because just because you're undead doesn't mean you're a zombie, right? You're still a normal person when you come back to life, theoretically. There are zombie-like beings in um Dark Souls, but those are people who have become hollow. Now, hollowing is so interesting to me because basically if you are undead long enough, you will become hollow. But it's complicated because your body can go hollow, right? And you'll look like a zombie, right? Like a decaying walking corpse, basically. But if your willpower is strong enough, your mind can still be a perfectly normal human mind, um, even after your body has hollowed. It's, dying again and again will eventually take a toll on your body, and you can gain like your normal human body back by consuming souls. But yeah, it's inevitable that if you die enough times, it will hollow out your body. But hollowing out your mind, that is just a matter of willpower. You can keep your mind from hollowing as long as you want, really. It's just a matter of how long are you going to go before you mentally give up. And once you mentally give up, once you allow your mind to hollow, then you're just a shambling, walking, violent corpse, basically. Then you're a zombie, essentially. And I think this is really, really interesting because just like real life, you can be in circumstances that feel like they're hollowing, and you can feel like life is having this hollowing effect on you, but you can still refuse to allow your mind to hollow. But at the same time, it's easier said than done. there's a couple of different ways that this is explored with some of the NPCs. One of them is actually the first one that you meet. Well, not the first. One of the first ones that you meet is the Crestfallen Warrior. He's kind of like the tutorial guy. Like, you meet him at the very beginning, and he just sort of tells you some very basic information, and then he sends you off on your journey. And throughout the game, you'll return to the hub area, and you can talk to him if you want. He won't have a ton to say. He's just kind of there, chilling at the like central hub area, and you can look in on him from time to time. And he, as his name suggests, he is crestfallen. He is definitely not what you'd call a go-getter. He's just hanging out at the hub, trying not to keep dying over and over again. He's not like hugely melancholy or anything like that. He seems content enough to just sort of like hang around. Um, but then a ways into the game, maybe 3/4 into the game, you'll come back to the hub area and he just won't be there. And so if you go looking for him, he will actually be in one of the combat zones outside the hub, and he'll be hollow. And it's just such a weird, somber experience because, if you'll forgive me for being blunt about this, it feels a lot like when a friend or family member or someone that you knew offs themselves, and you just kind of find yourself thinking, oh, I didn't realize they were struggling that much. And it's just a really good reminder. I don't know if this is what the creators of the game intended, but it feels like it's what they intended. It's a great reminder that it's so important to check on people, even if you don't think they're struggling. Just like, look in on friends, look in on family, ask them how they're doing, and like really be ready for, really, not just a hey, how you doing, like an actual check-in. It's really important that we all do that for each other, I believe. Now, on the other side of things, another interesting way hollowing is explored is the character Solaire. Solaire is the first ally you meet, right? So Solaire is willing to help you with other fights. He's enthusiastic about the prospect of helping you in a fight, because Solaire is one of the sun worshippers, and all of the like different groups in Dark Souls, they have this like moral code to them. And basically, the sun worshippers moral code is, if somebody needs help, you help them. Simple as that. Doesn't matter if they're a foreigner or a stranger or maybe even enemy. If someone needs help in their journey, you're supposed to give them that help. And Solaire really embraces that code. Um, he's incredibly upbeat and optimistic, and throughout the game, he's just an absolute beam of cheerfulness in a game that otherwise is very very melancholy. I wouldn't call Dark Souls depressing, but it is incredibly melancholy. Um, but little by little, so Solaire, he doesn't mind being hollow. At first, he's just like, yeah, it's great. I get to, live and die as many times as I need to, help as many times, or help as many people as I need to. He's on this quest to find his sun, because sun worshippers, they worship the sun, but of course, he's trying to find his own personal sun, or his own personal thing to strive for, right? And throughout the game, he just can't find it. Nothing sticks out to him as his sun. He doesn't find a thing to devote his life for. And that starts to wear down on him throughout the game. And towards the end, he'll be significantly less chipper. Um, he'll be incredibly downtrodden and sullen towards the end of the game. And it's so sad to see him like that, because he was by far the most optimistic person you could possibly meet towards the beginning of the game. And that's how life is. Sometimes you'll just have to watch life beat your friends and your family down, and there's not much you could do about it except stand by them as best you can. And on the flip side, even when Solaire is at his absolute worst, when you go to the final boss fight, Solaire is still there to help you. because no matter how bad he's feeling, he's still got your back. And I think it's such a cool and like respectable like thing to do, to write a character that can just be like absolutely crushed by life, but he's still a good friend. I really like that a lot. Now, I mentioned earlier that you consume souls to gain like your physical body back. Souls are basically like the currency in this world. Money exists, but it's essentially worthless except for in like maybe a few people, like specific situations. Most people, if anything, they just use money to trade for souls, right? Um, so at any given moment, you'll be carrying tons and tons of souls because they're what you buy skill points with, what you buy armor with, what weapons with, how you pay for upkeep on your weapons and armor. And if you die, how it works is basically you lose all those souls and they will be in this spot where you were last standing when you died the previous time. And so you get one chance to go get them back, right? But if you die on your way to get them back, then they're gone for good and you're back to square one, right? And it's really interesting how losing a ton of souls, say you beat a ton of enemies, maybe even a really big boss fight, you acquire tons and tons of souls, right? It's this there's this tension to carrying that much around. Like you just know you're going to get jumped, you're going to get killed by someone and you're going to lose them, right? And so when that inevitably happens, sometimes of course most of the time hopefully you'll be able to make it to wherever you're going and you can spend those souls before you lose them. Um, but a lot of times you'll get jumped, you'll die, and you'll have to make a run back to those souls to get them again. And so it's tricky because theoretically all you have to do is make it back to where you were the last time, and you're not going to have to fight anything new theoretically to get those souls back, right? But with that in the back of your mind, it's so easy to get tripped up on something dumb. You get killed by like a low level enemy, or you fall off a cliff because you weren't paying enough attention to a jump, whatever, and then those souls are gone. Losing those souls feels like losing, I don't know, emotional energy. Like it feels like losing your rhythm in life. You ever have a time when you're feeling good and like life is just going your way and something just knocks you out of it? That's a setback that at the time feels so impossible to come back from. But Dark Souls is really interesting because like the whole point of Dark Souls is you gotta come back from the setbacks. No matter how many like bosses you lose to, no matter how many souls you accidentally drop, you you have to just keep getting back up again, you know? It's like the Rocky Balboa thing. It's like it's not about how hard you get knocked down, it's about how many times you get back up. And it's such a like cliched thing to say, and there's no way that I can think of to really verbalize it to anyone who hasn't played the game, but it does feel and I know this is such an overly dramatic way to talk about it, but it does feel kind of crushing a little bit to lose that many souls because like Dark Souls is notoriously a difficult game. So it's really difficult to rack up a huge amount of souls. And if you get just like an absolute ton, like it feels like a fortune and you can't wait to spend it. It's weird how like it feels like this thrilling gamble to like maybe keep walking around with them instead of spending them. Maybe see if you can get just a little bit more, press your luck just a bit farther. And then when you die, like you kick yourself in a way that you don't kick yourself for mistakes in normal games. But when that happens, like it's so easy to be like, you know what, fuck this game, I'm done. And of course, it's just a game. There's really nothing wrong with that. But there's something interesting to like. It's good to exercise that mindset of refusing to give up no matter how many times you stumble and fall. And I think at its core, that's what Dark Souls is about. And in the same vein, that's what life is all about. No matter how many times you lose, you gotta get back up and be willing to lose again if you have to.